What will Russia's future be like? We don't have repression or criminal prosecution.
Yeah, what kind of future does Russia even have? They're just afraid of Ukraine, that's the whole future. And Putin is already seriously rattled just by the name Zelensky. He needs treatment. But it's already too late.
He's an actor after all, a real actor. A talented one, I'm saying this without any irony. We know this from his movies, even from earlier times. Well,
yeah, this cowardly, the coughing, snorting, and rather unpleasant creature named Putin recently held what they officially call a direct line.
Let's take a pen and write this down.
Yes, grab your pens and take notes. It was 4 hours and 24 minutes of shame.
You just want to ask, listen, what are you even saying about a war with Russia?
Oh, Putin, don't worry. Today we'll talk not only about the war, but also about how you killed Murat Nasirov.
Oh, please don't cry, my dear sweet Alina.
But for now, let's talk about the direct line. Are you even sure that was the real Putin? Just listen closely.
Will it be punishable, as you said, by law? There's one question here. We're not demanding anything that hasn't been said before.
100? No, honestly, I lisp too, of course, but I definitely don't have any doubles. But Putin does, and even a new one. Bring the lisping double into the studio. Is that how it is? So it was the lisping one on the hotline, huh?
The fundamental question at hand is entirely clear, and the responsibility for the situation, the ball, is entirely within their court. I personally spoke with the highly responsible and authorized officials from the Ministry of Government, specifically those tasked with overseeing these critical matters. Undoubtedly, the movement of military infrastructure towards our borders.
Infrastructure. Something about the lisping double. Pilavina for me, right? What do you think? Write in the comments.
The significant promises made to us about not expanding NATO are being completely ignored. We have been thoroughly deceived once again. There have been several substantial waves of NATO expansion over the years.
Listen, there's one thing I can't understand. Why didn't they invite the banquet double to the direct line with the patriotic Russians who will swallow all of Putin's nonsense anyway? Well, he'd eat it all up too. Look. No, but seriously, why didn't they invite the carpenter double? Now that I get, if they had, the direct line just wouldn't have happened at all.
The carpenter from Belarus, who looks like the war criminal Putin in Ashgabat, tried to lie again, but couldn't turn on the microphone.
And to wrap up the topic of Putin's doubles, or even triples, look, this is Putin just a couple of days ago, very recently in Tajikistan, so chubby, round-faced, clearly the banquet double. And this clown was already broadcasting on the live Q&A, looks like he's got some kind of shovel under his eyes, or maybe instead of Botox. His face, you know, isn't puffy, but rather shriveling. Where's your Botox? Where's the Udmurd? Where's the loser me? Well, whatever, for support. For the Z fans, for them. And this lisping Putin knockoff will do as well.
You know, we're watching the live Q&A, but at the same time, it's like we've gathered at the registry office. Actually,
let me tell you this. Honestly, it doesn't matter who it was. Whether it was the real Putin or some double of his. The point is something else. The point is that this time, the organizers of the direct line decided to get creative, sort of. And they put up for Putin some rather uncomfortable questions. Here's one of them. Why do ordinary people live worse than Papuans? Well, you know, actually that wasn't the only question like that. Here's another one. Well, obviously Putin didn't answer any of these questions, of course. For him it was, the main thing is something else. I actually think that this whole gathering, this entire direct line, was organized because of this video.
God bless today the Kupiansk direction. Soldiers here who are achieving results for Ukraine. I greet the guys, thank every unit, everyone who is fighting here, everyone who has destroyed the occupier.
Yes, Zelensky personally, to the sound of explosions in Kupiansk. A public humiliation of Putin, a real punch to the gut. And obviously, Putin had to at least somehow respond in the public sphere. That's why they even called in their tame Zarubin.
A week ago, Zelensky supposedly filmed a video against the backdrop of the Kupiansk city sign. But many immediately noticed by various signs that it was a fake.
No, Pavel, fake is the essence of your so-called work. But these attempts to whitewash Putin and the Russian army look so cringe-worthy. This really isn't Spanish shame, it's Russian shame.
The city sign is about a kilometer away from the city itself. So why just stand on the doorstep? Come on in. That's right.
Oh, that was clearly, a little home-cooked line. I feel like Peskov wrote this text himself. So why sit in a bunker? Hey Putin, have you ever actually been on the front line? I'm sure you haven't. You're just a coward, pale little Putin.
If we're talking about Kupiansk, about taking control...
Guys, as for Kupiansk, or Kupiansk as they say in the Kremlin, everything there is clear and straightforward. Whatever the lisping maniac says. The Ukrainian armed forces have driven back the occupiers from Kupinsk and control almost 90% of the city. Glaukonovsky stated this. Putin, what's wrong with your face? Here are the details.
A turning point is being recorded in the Kupinsky direction. Fighter for the neighborhood. Stadium area. The enemy's defense has lost its organizational integrity and has broken up into isolated pockets of resistance. They are deprived of the ability to coordinate actions and support each other.
Honestly, all of Putin's attempts, with his serious face to talk about the front and the successes of the Russian army, have ended in fiasco and public disgrace. That's why Peskov and the whole PR team had to come up with a circus act. But they definitely know how to do that in the Kremlin.
Delicious buns made. Maybe you'll get something tasty.
Well, the buns are only half the story. Here's the main hit. Vladimir?
Vladimirovich, are you in love?
Whoa, now that's a twist. And what did Putin mumble there, huh?
Yes. That's the answer to the last part of your question.
I honestly couldn't care less whether Putin knows how to love, but I suspect he doesn't. But I do know for sure that Putin knows how to kill.
And now, the central question of this video. Who was it? Putin, a clone, or someone else? I'm now showing you photos of the ghoul who attended this conference. So here's one photo. I want to tell you that this photo looks very much like... There was a clone like this about 5 to 7 years ago. He was called the Udmurt. That is clearly a person with Asian facial features. Right now, Putin, the person who is representing Putin, looks very much like him. That is, you have to agree, there's not much Slavic in this type. And in addition to that, those noticeably Botox cheeks, which are prominently sticking out on both sides of his face, strongly suggest that, besides something quite significant happening to the leader's underlying skull structure, they are also actively and deliberately trying to stretch and manipulate his facial features. Well, perhaps, just perhaps, it is indeed working to some extent. And now I really want to take a moment to show you a very clear and compelling visual comparison. And you can draw your own conclusion, whether it's Putin or not. So take a look. From left to right, Putin is on the left. This is the man who was ranting on TV screens in February 2022, saying he was starting the special military operation and God forbid anyone tries to stop him. That's him. Second from the left, this is the man who was at the inauguration, the year 2024. The third photo is of the person who was at those year-end results and was talking to people. There is a certain geometric resemblance between the one who was at the inauguration and the one who was at those year-end results we discussed. But the only thing I can say is that Botox and old age really do work wonders. And even though their geometry is quite similar, it's hard for me to say how, in just 3 years, a person could age and deteriorate like that. That's why I conclude that it's unlikely that the person at the inauguration was a processed clone. By the way, my video about the inauguration is online. It's even on my channel, where I prove that this is not the original president. So the second photo from the left is already not the original president. I consider the first photo to be the original. The third photo, the one from these 3 years, is either a mutilated version of the one from the inauguration or a new clone. Geometrically, by the way, they are still quite similar. And the last photo on the right, that's from 2001, that's President Putin, who really was the actual president. And here I have a question as well. Would you agree that the photo of the one from February 2022 and the photo, and these are the extreme photos, and the photo of Putin from 2001, they differ quite significantly? So the question is, where is the real president? Why do I believe that the one who announced that Putin was starting the special military operation, and God forbid if anyone gets involved in this, I came to this conclusion based on two factors. First, This Putin, the one in the photo on the left, almost made Narishkin wet himself at the podium. And the way all his entourage reacted to the leader's outbursts, Patrushev was there, Shoigu was there were many people, showed that they were extremely concerned and afraid of the man standing before them. Let me just remind you, it was still during the challenging and unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic period, and President Putin was notably sitting very far away from all of his close aides and trusted advisors, which also clearly means he was diligently taking exceptional care of his personal health and well-being. And one more factor. This same Putin took part in judo throws in 2019. It was the same person. And judo throws are also quite authentic. And then, when I compared these throws with the throws Putin did in the 2000s, Putin the judoka, as we remember, he's even a master of sports in history, the throws are identical. It's hard to train an elderly person who has never practiced judo to give them the style of the same fighter. That's why I believe that the person in the photo on the left is the real one, Putin. I also can't doubt that the person in the photo on the right is real. Putin, because this is a photo from 2001, and back then no one was even thinking about clones. That is, at that time, Putin had just barely won and become president after Boris Yeltsin. So the Putins you see, choose which one is real and which one is not. I have my own clear view on the matter, but I can't say that I am the ultimate authority because I haven't touched or seen any of these Putins, and I haven't even been near them. But nevertheless, I work with photographs.